Hello Year 5, welcome to your first RE lesson for this term. So this term we are going to be looking at the key features of Jewish worship in Judaism. So we're going to be looking at the Jewish faith for this term. Okay, so we're looking at Judaism. Okay, so what do you already know about Judaism? So pause the screen, or pause the video rather, and I would like you to jot down some ideas about what you might already know about the Jewish faith. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of information. So Judaism is actually one of the oldest religions in the entire world, and it started around 4,000 years ago by a man named Abraham. Now, he was the very first person to believe in one supreme God, and when he left the land he lived in to start a new nation, he started it with new people, and these people were called the Israelites. Okay. Now, Judaism was actually also one of the founding religions that actually started two other branches of big world religions. We have Christianity and Islam, okay? Now, the Jewish have a holy book, and this is known as the Torah. And it is also in the Old Testament in the Christian Bible as well, okay? So there are elements that are the same between the two of them, okay? Now, Abraham and his sons, Isaac and Jacob, are known as the patriarchs of Judaism, okay? So they're almost like the head leaders, okay, that sort of represented and went out and spread the word of the Jewish faith, okay? Now, the Jewish faith actually had a very troubled and very difficult history, okay? And there are elements of history that you might have looked at before, okay? Now, going all the way back to the Middle Ages, there was a lot of hostility, so a lot of anger and resentment against the Jewish faith and the Jewish people. And they were blamed for the death of Jesus. So this is going back to our Christianity story. Now, as a result, many of the Jews were actually made to live in ghettos. Now, if you know what a ghetto is, it's not a particularly nice area to be in. It's a very run-down area. They tend to be on the borders of big cities, and they tend to be in areas of poverty. Now, the hostility against Jews reached its peak during the World War II. Now, you might know a little bit of information about this, but we had the mass murdering of the elimination of Jews. Now, this was committed by Adolf Hitler. And as a result, he actually saw that Jewish people were the enemy, and he didn't like them. And as a result, those people that followed in his beliefs didn't like them either. Now, during this point in time in the World War II, we had an event called the Holocaust. Now, during the Holocaust, around 6 million Jewish people were killed. Okay. Now, you may have seen the film The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas. If you haven't, it's a good film to watch. And it is all about the Holocaust. And there it shows you the different events that happened to the Jewish people and how they were treated. And it was awful, absolutely awful. But despite having to face all these atrocities and all these challenges and barriers to overcome, the Jewish people never lost their faith. It was something that stuck with them the entire time. And their faith was that in being chosen as the chosen people by God, their Jewish population then continued to worship God. So it didn't hold them back in their faith or what they believed in. So my question to you is, what is worship? So I want you to think about what religion you follow, think about your faith and what it is that you do that makes you who you are through your faith. So I'd like you to have a go, draw this spider diagram down onto your paper, and I would like you to jot down some ideas of what is worship to you. Okay, so let's have a think of some pictures. So I've got a couple of pictures here I want to show you. And I want you to have a think about what is happening and why. So pause the video. What do you think is happening in this picture and why? Okay, so this is what we call a menorah. Okay, so this is it's made of gold, solid plated gold, and it is it's almost like well, it's not a candlestick, but it's a candelabrum, which has 9 different points on it, okay? And this tends to be used during the celebration of Hanukkah. Now, during the times of Hanukkah, they would put oil that would sit inside each one of those lamps, and they'd be lit on a daily basis. And obviously, it's to symbolise the importance of the Jewish faith and the different days that creation happened within the Jewish faith. Okay, I'd like you to pause the video and have a think about what is happening in this picture and why. So this is the Torah. So this is their religious book. Okay, so this person here, this potentially a child, is learning how to read the Torah and the messages and the morals that are coming from this story. Now we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail. So let's think about where Jews worship. Okay, so the Jews worship is in the synagogue or a temple. Okay, so these are special buildings specifically for the Jewish worship. Now, as there are other religions, there are lots of different kinds of synagogues, so it depends on what type of Jewish faith they follow. So we have the Orthodox and Reformed Jews. So Orthodox synagogues tend to be more traditional and more elaborately decorated. So this will be these ones over here. So they're quite elaborate, quite bold temples and synagogues. Whereas any Reformed Jews might worship in temples that are more informal, so they tend to look a bit more plain or more basic. Now, the most important of the Jewish scriptures, okay, is called the Torah. So this is going back to the picture we looked at a minute ago. So the Torah is the first of 5 books which makes up the different parts of the Jewish Bible. Now, these are known as the 5 books of Moses. So Jews believed that God actually dictated, so spoke out loud the Torah to Moses across 50 days after their exodus from Egyptian slavery, so when Egyptian slavery was abolished and came to an end. Now, they believed it tells Jews how God wants them to live their lives. So it's almost like a book to follow by as to how to lead your life in the eyes of God. Now, it contains 613 commandments, okay? The most of which are the famous 10 commandments, which also crosses off into the Christian faith as well. Now, the Torah is written in Hebrew, so it's not written in English, and it's often written on a scroll. So this scroll will be one very long page. It will start from one end to the other, and each page will be rolled across in a different direction to show you the next step in that scroll. So there is another important Jewish book. This is known as the Siddha. So the Siddha is actually a prayer book that contains a set of ordered daily prayers. So each day within the Jewish faith, they have to say a certain prayer at a certain time of day. And these prayers have to be said in a certain order. So we have your morning prayers, afternoon prayers, and your evening prayers. Okay. So this is similar to other faiths where there are certain points in the day that you sit and you pray and you worship God. Now, it also has prayers for such occasions such as the Shabbat. Now, the word Siddha means order in Hebrew, okay? So what is Shabbat? So it's the most important day within the Jewish week, okay? Now, Shabbat is the Hebrew word for the Sabbath, okay? So the Sabbath is more commonly known as the day of rest. So if we think about the Christian or Catholic faith, our Jewish day of rest or our Sabbath is a Sunday. Sunday is our holy day. So have a sit and think if there's a different holy day that you have if you follow a different faith or religion. Now, this is when God rested on the 7th day after creating the world. So we follow the same concept that the world was created in 7 days. And day 7 was the day that God got to have a rest. So this is the day of Shabbat, the Sabbath. So Shabbat begins on Friday at sundown and ends on Saturday at sundown. Okay, so for them they have that period of time between sundown between the 2 different days. Now this is a day for families to spend time with each other and relax after a very busy week. Now, more observant Jews do not allow any work to be done on the Sabbath. So there is no work to be done on that particular day. Now this includes driving a car or cooking. So if you are a devout Jew, you will do absolutely nothing on that day. So anything with regards to cooking would be done in preparation the day before. So this is just an opportunity once a week for the Jewish faith to sit with their family, with their friends, and relax for the day. Now, Jews will wish each other Shabbat Shalom during this time, meaning have a peaceful rest. Okay? Now, on this Friday evenings, they'll share a very special meal together. Okay, so candles are lit and everyone will have a glass of wine or grape juice. Now they bake a special bread called challah. Now this is made and eaten to remind Jews of when God gave bread to the Jews who had escaped from Egypt so that they wouldn't have to work on the Sabbath, so on their rest day. Okay, now this is flattened unleavened bread. You can make it today and it tends to be unsweetened. Now, most Jews will attend synagogue on a Saturday morning where they have special prayers that are said. Now, the Torah will be taken out and will be read, and a talk is to be given by the rabbi. So the rabbi is the religious person that leads that faith. Okay, so we have the priest, okay, when we have a rabbi. Then there will be different heads and leaders, okay, depending on different faiths and religions. And here you can see a picture of what this bread looks like, okay. So it's an opportunity to sit down, break some bread, share it between family and friends, and relax and to enjoy the peace on the Sabbath. So your task for this lesson, I'm going to move this over. You will have a copy of this sent home to you as well, okay? But if it's easier to be able to read it on the screen, then you can pause the video and read it off the screen. So you've been sent home some questions, and what I would like you to do is using the text that's in front of you, or the text that's here on the screen, is I would like you to write these questions. Now you know how I'm going to say with regards to questions and how we answer them. How do we answer them, Year 5? Exactly. We write them in full sentences. So you need to imagine that when you send your work in next week, Miss Humphrey isn't going to have a clue what the questions were. So I need to help Miss Humphrey out, and I'm going to have to write my questions so that she can imagine what the question might have been. So, for example, when does Shabbat start and end? So the Shabbat starts on and ends on. What do the two Shabbat candles symbolize? The two Shabbat candles symbolize ... Okay, so use the question stems to help you write those answers. If you would like to challenge yourself any further and go and conduct some further research into the Jewish faith, then by all means, you might have some questions that you're not quite sure about. You might want to know a little bit more information about the menorah and the festival of Hanukkah. Okay, so by all means, go off and do some extra research. But your task for today, read the extract on the screen or the extract you have in front of you and have a go at answering the questions. Okay, good luck, year 5.